We have Jose from Cafe Boulevard here today, our wonderful master of ceremonies. Um, Kathleen Benjamin will lead us in this discussion. And please put your email and name, your name and your email in the chat so we can give out information on future opportunities and presentations. And thank you, Kathleen.
Awesome. I want to thank everyone for being here. This is an exciting time as we're learning to dance together. So I want to introduce you to Jose of Café Bolivar. He came here from Venezuela, and he is a local replant. He actually is basically a local guy and opened his restaurant with some of the flavors that he discovered in his many travels. The cafe is really a community hub, is really what I want to emphasize. And it is an incubator and experimentation. It's a place for music performances, spoken word, art exhibits, and documentaries and experimental film showcases. So take it away, Jose. We're looking forward to hearing all of your wisdom and insight.
Um, well, hello, everyone. I just wanted to make it concise because I mean we at the cafe to start with the name Bolivar is it's kind of our patron back home in Venezuela. His name is Simon Bolivar, and not because of his kind of campaigns to liberate Latin America of Spanish rule, but it's more like he was also very thoughtful, and he talked a lot about integration, unity, justice, and diversity. So we thought that we would we'll kind of pay a tribute to his name in opening this cultural space and incorporate art, music, and food. This all came about. This idea, came about when I was in college at the University of Cal State Long Beach, and I was working in a restaurant, waiting tables part time and going part time to school, and we had an idea to actually for the photo department in the art department, just to give you a little explanation, I mean, in the art department, there were different sections, and we were set up in the basement of the science building, away from the main, happening. And we thought that we wanted to make some noise, and like we do in Latin culture, I mean, it had to be done with music and food. So we created this massive exhibition that included, a diverse background of photographers, beginners and also advanced, and then we created this exhibition, and it became just amazing. From there, it kind of evolved into people who were doing their MFAs, and then they actually contacted me because they wanted me to develop that same idea. People from Colombia, from Ghana, and I was working with a really close friend of mine who is a culinary anthropologist, who actually introduced me to all these different flavors and in styles of food, and go more into detail. And then the space came about in Santa Monica. It was available. I had worked there briefly on weekends, and it was a small cafe. And the rent was, it was affordable, and the neighborhood was really nice. I was really used to it because I went to Santa Monica College. And we decided, I talked to a couple of friends of mine, and we came together and we opened this small space. The original idea was for a cultural space, mainly, to have art exhibitions, music, spoken word, to have a space also as a open forum for politics and in community engagement. But we needed to pay the rent, and any of those ideas weren't near enough to cover the rent, or kind of sustain our lives. So we decided to actually start with something very simple. We added an espresso machine, so we learned how to make coffee. And then with the help of a couple of friends, one of them was a chef, we thought about the menu and what we wanted to this menu to actually represent, because it will have to be to go hand in hand with our mission, what we were doing in the arts. And that's how we did it. We were very shy at the beginning. We didn't have a sign outside for 11 years. So it was basically whoever walked through the door and actually venture in the building, they will actually discover, uh, a lot of times with amazement. I mean, what is this place? They thought that they were going in for an art show, and then they ended up looking to the right, and there was food, and it smelled good, and then that's how we started. We had a very limited budget. Matter of fact, I mean, the first day that we opened, I mean, we had to empty our pockets and put the change that we had in there, so we could have enough change for people to give back when they purchase something. And we, at the beginning, since we were, we didn't know much about food, we had to actually kind of find mentors. So I found a roaster that was willing to actually mentor me in regards to coffee. And I found another mentor in regards to how to run a business, how to, expand, what do you do when you hire somebody? I mean, there's a lot of things that when you start growing, you don't know. And we actually did this as we were, growing and expanding and learning how to do things. I remember one time, I mean, when we opened, I mean, somebody asked for a cup of tea and I had to run to the store to buy tea bags because we didn't even have that. But, we were going to make sure that we didn't let anybody go away. So we needed every single penny that was coming into that place. Like I said, I mean, my background is in the arts, in photography, and my partner at the beginning was a graphic designer. And we have another fellow that was with us briefly, who actually was the person that had a little more knowledge, but also like myself, I mean, customer service. We worked in the front of the house. We never worked in the back of the house. That's basically how things got started. The space, somehow we got to a point that we really felt the need to find our voice and our identity. And I started kind of looking a little more, especially when a lot of my expats started coming from Venezuela due to the political situation. People were looking for a space, a refugee, so we became, in that time, also an extension of the Venezuelan consulate. We helped individuals with different needs. I mean, legal needs, medical needs. And then we started organizing the community, the Venezuelan community. We had a small baseball games at Will Rogers. We did, Christmas jingles during the nativity. And we actually have political engagement. We open a forum for people of different ideologies to come and express themselves, respectfully. And that was a disaster. We had to stop. People attacked each other. They didn't respect them. So we had to change. So we moved on, and then we did it through a little bit of food. So we started preparing, food from Venezuela. We started creating new dishes. We started playing with new ingredients, and we more or less, I mean, found our voice. In this whole thing, of course, I mean, there's a lot of mechanics that go behind it. Your suppliers, your price point, your profitability, and what you're trying to do at the end. It's like, are you happy with what you're putting out as a product? and it changed. The food section became really strong, and then we were working more, and then we had less time to have fun that we were, doing at the beginning, the gallery openings, and we had to drop some of the, unfortunately, some of the events because we were working 16 hours a day, and we were just completely burned out. We got help from some other friends at times, but at the end, I mean, the business side, the food side grew fast, and we had to tend to it. So now we only run a gallery. We do 6 shows a year because that's something that we really feel that we need to do. On occasion, we have very selective events that we put through the year, and we have focused mainly on the kitchen, basically. I don't know if anybody would like me to just dive into any area in specific. I think Kathleen, you're on mute.
So Jose, you spoke of the time that you found your voice. And so you're saying that you found your voice in regards to food.
Yes. Basically, we had a menu that was very eclectic, but we thought that I really wanted to explore something more specific. Like many people at the beginning, I mean, you start with a broad menu that has so many items that sometimes is unmanageable. Your inventory is, it's larger. There's more potential to spoilage on different dishes that don't move as others. So for me, it was important that I find my calling, so my roots, I looked more into researching Venezuelan flavors, but also since, I had lived more than half of my life here in California. I mean, I'm sort of like a hybrid, and I cannot, just, kind of keep aside all the different flavors that we have here, especially the different influences that we have from the South, from Mexico, and from abroad here in the U.S. So we're in a constant a search and adaptation of ingredients for us to express it through the main dishes that we have.
So tell me what happened in a business sense, as well as I hear your menu development, but tell me what happened between having a gallery, spoken word. I understand there was an actual conflict, but what became clear to you where you really started to develop the food part as opposed to the social network, political hub of your community? Because that's a pretty big change. And it's also, sounds like you really got grounded. And tell me if your success had anything occurred during that time also. So that's sort of a transition time when you found your voice and your menu. Tell me what happened there.
Well, like I said, I mean, usually, of course, we needed to be respectful to our clients. I mean, people are coming in and expecting that we are there to serve them from a certain time to a certain time. So most of the activities that we did were after hours. So it will be after we finish work, we will actually start doing all these different engagements. So the days were expanding and going a very, like I said, 16-hour days or 18-hour days, and we felt that we had to make a decision, not to actually say that we won't continue being politically oriented and aware, but actually to be more selective. So we will be able to, because a lot of times, I mean, most of these events that we had, they weren't profitable. They were mostly, like a community outreach,
Mhm.
and or to create a platform for different groups, but it became expensive to do that. And it became hard because we also have a limited amount of employees, and we cannot actually expect anybody to actually come and do it for free. I didn't feel that that will be the way that I wanted it to be. So we work with people who volunteer for a while, and we were able to carry that on a little bit.
Awesome. So Jose, what advice would you give to someone trying to break into the industry to start their own business?
Well, I think the first thing that I recommend is that, whatever area that you're going into in general in business, I mean, to do as much research as you can. Really think about what you're giving, what you are willing to give up, and what you think you're going to gain out of the situation. If you're thinking about opening a restaurant, I mean, understand that a restaurant will demand time, will demand a lot of attention, depending on your involvement and depending on how you care about this living, entity. That's how it's going to succeed. You have to be present. You have to nourish it. You have to really put yourself in it, especially if it's a small, kind of small business, a mom and pop like myself. I mean, I really have to make sure that we are all in sync, so it actually the message and our vibe, who we are, actually transcends through everybody that works at the cafe. I think financially is definitely is one section that you have to pay attention to, especially at the beginning. I mean, most people start businesses with limited resources, and and it's heartbreaking when you put everything that you have worked towards or your savings, and you start seeing that dream kind of disappear. So you have to be very aware of the risk that you're going into. And I will say, find a mentor, find somebody that actually have done what you're trying to do, and learn as much as you can from that person, and don't be embarrassed to ask questions. And before you make any decision, I recommend that actually you make sure that you work on your concept. What do you want to do? Whatever it is that you're gonna do, I mean, your concept, your story. You're becoming a storyteller. So by wanting to tell your story, I mean, you have to know, where you're coming from and where you're going, and how you're gonna tell the story. In our case, will be, through food. I mean, what are we telling, people? What do we want them to understand? Those are some of the main things that I think make any product, could be successful.
And Jose, who are your target clientele? Like, are they Venezuelans? Are you sharing with the local community your Venezuelan roots, or what would you say are your target clients, and as well as the community? I know that you mentioned about your food and how you share the culture in that way.
Yeah, we try to keep our menu. It's very tricky because we try to keep our menu tight, but we try to be very pluralistic. To if I mean our menu, can be vegetarian, can be vegan, can be for meat lovers. So in that sense, I mean, we have a little something for everybody. For the tea drinker, we have some of the best selections. For coffee, we have gone out of the way to find a local partner. Those are the things that we try to do. I will say that I would like to say that my target audience will be uh, people who are into eating well, people who are into slow food, not fast food, but something that actually is being made with care, with attention to detail, and it's very open. I love the fact that at the cafe, I mean, you can have, well, before this, I mean, you could have 4 or 5 different type of languages being spoken, you know in different tables.
Mm.
You will have somebody who is a nanny sitting next to somebody who is writing a script for a movie. I think that's I really don't, which is most, in most instances, I mean, they will say, okay, find your customer base. Who are you targeting to? But for me, I like to keep it open. I want it to be um, very accessible to everybody, to young kids. I mean, I have kids from middle school that come in by themselves, and they sit down and they have lunch, and they dig it. They have fun, and I can have somebody I don't know, over 70 needing at another corner having a cup of tea, and everybody's having a good time.
That's so awesome. So such a versatile target. It's like everybody, and that's probably why that's the community hub over there.
Yes, it's very inclusive, and that's what everybody tells me, that they really feel at home. They really feel that they belong. They really feel, and at the same time, and I tell everybody that it's actually that diversity that transcends into this energy that you feel at the cafe when everybody's there. It really feels. I mean, I don't. I that is one of the things, and I think this is um, the one aspect of this adventure that gives me satisfaction, because when I travel, I used to stay for prolonged periods of time in small communities or cities, and I always found a little spot that the owner was there or somebody was there that you could start talking, very casual, and actually become friends for life. When I used to come back to LA after these trips, I would be homesick, and I will start looking for these places, and it was really hard to find a place like that. I found a couple of spots that that I became a regular myself, and I had really good friends. And actually, some of those business owners are still my friends after 25, 30 years. Some of them are retired, living in other countries. We're still keep in touch, and they're inviting me to come and visit them all the time. So that's what I wanted, and then that's why we created this cafe, actually, to give you a space that you can be yourself. Not to prioritize money, or the financial aspect of it, but to create a lifestyle, that I can come in and be myself, be relaxed, and everybody can see that we're just very transparent.
Beautiful. We have a question in the chat. You told us about community political situation and your ambition as a restaurateur. Did that affect your business model? And how did you try to reach out to all?
Um, well, I can give you an example in regards to, you can see it today in the U.S. how segments of the population are becoming more and more polarized. Less tolerance towards healthy engagement when it comes to talking about our ideas, and our differences. So that happened in my community, in my Venezuelan community.
Mm.
Politics became a very controversial issue, to the point that in the same family circle there were members of the family that didn't speak to each other, living under the same roof, because they didn't agree on what the other was thinking. So I try to be as neutral as I could, listen and understand, and respect everybody's point of view. We were regulars on TV shows that were trying to get our point of view on Spanish broadcasting media, and we told it as it was. So they actually didn't like what we were saying. They wanted us to take a side, and the same happened with the two groups um, um, that were polarized by the political situation. They wanted me to take a side. They wanted me to be on their side, and they actually wanted to take the cafe over and as their own. And I couldn't do that, because my mission was to have everybody under the same roof. I will be open to a leftist as I was to the person from the right, as long as we will respect each other. And that fell. There were instances that people they started saying things, in my back. Some of them say that I was a radical leftist. Other ones, they thought that I wasn't I wasn't radical enough, or from the left, or progressive. So they tried it really hard to categorize me. And sometimes when we had documentaries, one in particular was a documentary on organic agriculture, but it happens that it was filmed in Cuba. Most people don't know that actually they had no option, but they had to become, an organic farming community, and that's what we were showing. And I got, phone calls, threatening phone calls, that how do I dare to show, a communist film? Or so in that sense, it was very hard. And a lot of people that were my customers, they're not my customers anymore.
Mm.
Some by choice, and some because I decided that they weren't healthy. Myself, I come from a mixed background. My grandparents on my mom's side are Swiss and African, and on my dad's side, European and Creole. So I have a large part of my family are Black. And when people come in and then actually start talking, and in a very derogatory way, or assuming, that actually puts me in a position that I have to be vocal about it and let them know that my grandmother is Black, and how dare you. And that happened a lot. I started learning more about, when I left Venezuela. I was 17. I had just finished high school. I really didn't know my country. I really didn't know, the social fabric of it, or the history, or the politics, but I got to learn it here. And a lot of times, by being exposed to some of my expats that had a radical view of, what a Venezuelan is.
All the lessons.
That come with a business. Yes.
All the lessons.
Not only food.
So Jose, I love that you created this place. I've traveled many places also, and that place that you're talking about when you are in another country is such a sweet spot. It's so wonderful to be able to, and just have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and for just a brief time, you feel like a local.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. It's very magical.
Yeah, so I love that's the place. So what are two words of wisdom that you would give someone starting a new business um, that is a cultural business? We have we have Mulugeta, so we have an Ethiopian culture. So when you think about someone opening a cultural business that's going to serve a cuisine specifically from that country, are there any suggestions you might have?
Well, for one thing, we can get a really, a little more specific in the fact that how are you going to represent that cuisine? Are you going to stick to your bones and say that it's a traditional style of cuisine? Are you reinventing? Is it family recipes? So it will be also, your family interpretation of the cuisine of the country. Or if you want to take another spin, it will be this is my interpretation of the food of my country. But I think it will be one of the things that we get hammered by the Venezuelans because I am not very a believer in traditional cuisine because it's I think everybody can create their own tradition where they are, and we decided to do so ourselves. We decided to go off the grid, and instead of sticking to a traditional dish, actually we studied the traditional dish and then we broke it apart and then we created our own. So you can have it. Is this something that you can make at home? Some people, yes, would love to have that. Or is it something that actually is reinvented and you wouldn't make it at home, but you would definitely go to this place? An example on our menu would be that nobody in their right mind will put fruit inside an arepa, a dish. So at the beginning, that was like, you're just crazy. It's like, this is like it's not possible. You can't do that. And I'm like, okay, just try it. If you don't like it, you don't pay it. It's like, and to my satisfaction, that dish, has been plagiarized, has been, by other people. Some expats that actually have moved away, they have said that, they can get Venezuelan food, but not like the one that we make, not the flavors that we have. And some of the people have said that, they were in Panama, they were in Colombia, they were in Venezuela, and they were looking for that flavor. They were like, it didn't have that, flavor that you had. So I think that's something important to kind of find your, what are you attempting to do? Where is your food going, and what are you saying with your food? That would be the main thing.
That's beautiful. Jose, with all those flavors that you mentioned about your background is kind of mind-blowing with the Swiss and the African and all those flavors together. But most countries have a seafood dish that has either rice or potatoes. We have, paella, gumbo, across the country. What's the Venezuelan equal to the one pot seafood dish? Is there something?
A hot seafood, I will say that there's a style of a soup, okay, that is called a sancocho. And a sancocho is usually when it comes to seafood, you will have to be very specific and talk about the populations of the coast of the islands. Yes, that's a very specific a dish that everybody enjoys. In my case, in my family, also, we have certain roots that are indigenous from the Amazon also. So we actually create a a dish that it had its roots in the 1800s, and it's I don't know how to explain it. It could be. It's
Is
really
it
hard.
braised?
No, it's baked and it becomes it's like a cake,
Oh,
but it's made out of fish,
okay. So
potatoes, the
braised.
spices.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be it. But for us, in a significant dish that I will say probably from the Latin American countries, it will have to be a tamal, and we have a very particular one that we make, and we make it at the cafe during the Christmas time. That's the only time that we make them, and
Hmm.
it's actually it's a beautiful expression of our diversity, because it comes wrapped in a banana leaf, and as you know, bananas came from Africa, and then it's made out of corn, which is indigenous to the Americas. And then inside it has beef and pork that comes from Europe,
Mhm.
as well as almonds, olives, raisins, and
Wow.
capers. So it's a very, very interesting. There's many anecdotes and stories where it comes from or how it was conceived. Some say that actually, there was a time when in the house of the master, European, a Spaniard, uh, you would have two castes of slaves, and it would be the Africans and the indigenous.
Mhm.
And so in the quarters where all the servants will be, actually whatever was left over on the table, they will take back there, and that's what they will make a meal with. So they actually most likely use the from the indigenous side, they used the corn and they made a masa, and then they actually stuffed it with all these different ingredients and wrapped it in the banana leaves. So that's what we
So,
actually, that's what we have for Christmas.
oh, so that's like a tamale.
Yeah, that's a tamal.
Tamal.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So, Eric Johnson, can you unmute yourself and share what you put in the chat with us? Maybe you could pronounce that a little better than I would.
Well, I do have a cousin who loves Venezuelan food, and he makes pabellón criollo. So,
Yeah.
so that's what he makes that quite a bit, and I love it. And obviously the tamales. I do have a family that's from Guatemala as well. They use the banana leaves as well for the tamales. So it's a little different, but I love it. So, and like I said, it's a very good culture in food. So that's why I was just when you were talking
Sharing.
about some of the stuff, it was great to. It made me hungry, obviously. Obviously, it was awesome to hear all the different things you're doing. So it's like, I mean, food brings a lot of people together, which is
Yes.
which is definitely
Absolutely.
so,
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Eric.
thank you.
Yeah, no, like Eric mentioned, I mean, the pabellón criollo is also it's the flagship a dish of Venezuela. Is rice and beans and shredded beef with you have a choice of having it with fried plantains on the side.
Mm.
That's very popular. But definitely, like many cuisines, we have so many little hidden gems that actually have not been properly addressed. And we in Venezuela also have a style of cuisine that is very particular, as many other nations, that it has not been internationalized or and it's based on the 1800s. It's very interesting because it's called Mantuana cuisine, and Mantuana are the ladies, the women in society who used to wear the can't remember, like
Headdress.
the headdress, the scarf that goes on top is called a manta, and they used to go to church, so they call them mantuanas. But most of these young ladies, I mean, at the time, I mean, the focus of I would say, like, enlightenment and education was Europe. So they used to send the young girls to or the young men to Europe, to France mostly. There they will, develop a taste for the refined cuisine at the time, and then they will come back to Venezuela, and it will be only appropriate in high society to serve these dishes, but the ingredients were different. We didn't have the ingredients that they had in France. So the ladies in the kitchen had to be sent back. The cooks were sent back to Europe to learn how to cook these different dishes. And when they came back to Venezuela, they didn't find the ingredients, so they have to improvise. So this new style of cuisine, of national cuisine, was born with the French, background as a base, and it's called Mantuana cuisine.
Mm. Wow, we have so much fusion with the French. So many different types of cuisine and so many dishes.
Yes, and we're so fortunate being here in LA. I tried moving from LA many times because I don't like driving. And it was so hard because I couldn't find my Thai food. I couldn't find a decent Mexican restaurant. I was always about that, about the food and the music and the diversity of people, So I came back. I was forced to come back to LA because I couldn't find all of those things that we have here.
Oh, well, we're glad you're forced to come back.
We should never take for granted, how amazing our culinary diaspora here in Los Angeles is.
Jose, is there any component of the cuisine that is Swiss?
No, not yet, because unfortunately my grandfather died. I never met him. I have not met my Swiss side of the family. And I have never been to Switzerland yet.
It's just an interesting cuisine to work with, to try to to mix. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, right now, what I have been doing is basically going back and trying to break down some of the components of our dishes. Most of them have Spanish, of course, influence. But going a little further back, I've been finding that some of those dishes that a lot of us in Venezuela think that they're Venezuelan, they're not, and that actually they're not even Spanish, but actually they go back to Africa. When the Moors occupied Spain, they brought a lot of goodies with them. So if it wasn't for that, our cuisine would be completely different right now.
Yeah. Mulugeta wants to know, what's your hottest ingredient?
Hottest in terms of heat?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, there's a type of pepper that we use in Venezuela. It's called ají, but we don't have it here. It's really hard to find. If you think about it, it looks like habanero pepper. Okay. It can be red, it can be green or yellow, but it actually is more floral than the habanero. It has a lot of, the fragrance from these peppers are just amazing. They vary in heat. So you can have some that have a minimal amount of heat, but the flavor is just amazing. That's the perfume of my country. That's what we usually say, the ají. Here, since I've been kind of, adopted by my Mexican families, I love the diversity of chiles that they have in Mexico. So we make our own smoked dried chili sauce. So we work with a type of chili that's called morita, and that will be the spicy one that we have. We combine it with another two, and then it's very smoky and flavorful and meaty, but it carries a punch.
So what's your favorite cuisine, Jose, that you enjoy just eating and not so much preparing?
Oh my God. I don't know. I love them all. I mean, I here in my house, I mean, I mean, during this time, we have learned how to try to imitate a lot of different styles of cuisine. But I have to say, I love Mexican food. Um, I I always, Thai is one of my favorites. They're very complex in the way they integrate some of their spices and herbs. Um, Japanese is another style that I love. Peruvian is an amazing cuisine too. I don't know. I will be. I could never leave any out. My wife, for example, is from the northern part of Spain, from the Basque country. So we enjoy a lot of that incredible food that they have. But it mainly goes, I mean, a lot of time to the ingredients. I'm open for anything. Ethiopian, I have one like three blocks away from my house that I just walk up. Indian food is like, I mean, another amazing thing. Like I said, I mean, that's why I'm here in LA. It's for the food, not the weather.
Arcadio, unmute yourself and come into the conversation if you're available. Arcadio has a question. Do you consider your cuisine more Caucasian than native?
Well, you will have to define, I mean, what Caucasian cuisine is. And, that is pretty broad of a term.
Oh, they don't have a microphone available.
Okay. I will say that I can't say that it will be. I would like to say that I'm trying to get closer to the source of the ingredients. For example, I've been on 4 trips to Mexico. I've been trying to create a connection with corn growers, so I can actually start importing and working with these small farms and this family, and bring my own corn, so we can actually, make our own, masa, and from there have a little more control and bring more diversity. We have allocated over 60 different types of corn. They're just amazing. And I think that's bringing me closer to the roots, Caucasian, I don't know, maybe European. I mean, they have a lot of beautiful things that I actually love as well. So I would say that I don't consider myself, I mean, either native, I mean, going in one direction or the other, but I would never leave anybody out. I will take advantage of anybody that has something good to offer.
Okay, Mulugeta wants to know, what kind of cheese or butter do you use in Venezuelan food?
Well, the diversity of cheeses that we have back home is just insane, because you have to, when you talk about cheese, you have to talk about climate also. And we have desert-like plains, we have rainforests, we have some of the highest peaks covering snow. We have a section of the Andes, which has a very particular style of cuisine also. So every region has a different style of cheese. So if you go to for example, the plains, where the cheeses are usually either fresh or super aged, very dense, and they lack a lot of moisture. So if you go to another section, they don't use cows because of, they only can keep a livestock of goats. So goat cheese there is just phenomenal. So here in LA is a little hard to find that diversity in cheeses. I was insane. I tried. I started importing cheese from Florida. These guys were making cheese, and one time I ordered 150 pounds of cheese, and I had to put it in my own refrigerator at home. I asked for some of my neighbors to kind of adopt my cheese for a while, because I couldn't. I couldn't fit it anywhere, but it was amazing. It was just I never ate so much cheese in my life. Now what we're trying to do, we were trying to bring a master cheese maker that was going to work with us in the cafe. Unfortunately, his visa was revoked and he couldn't come to work. We're exploring the options. We found a group of people from Israel that are making cheese. And one thing that I think all humanity has in common is like we all have a fresh type of cheese. It's the most common and the easiest cheese. So that's what we're working with. We're working with this fresh cheese that is made here in LA County, and they make it weekly. So we have really fresh cheese. The cows are in Petaluma, so they're not that far away. They're not in Wisconsin. We're trying to. It's very hard to import cheeses from Mexico. I mean, at least the kind that I want, that are kind of moldy. They're made by a group of Mennonites in the Chihuahua Desert. I think it's one of the best cheeses that I tried. And I kind of bring a few pieces once in a while. But mainly that's what we're doing right now. It's labor intensive. Another type of cheese that we use, believe it or not, I mean, and it's kind of traditional in Venezuela, is Gouda, which is a Dutch cheese. And I try to think about it. I mean, why it became so. We adopted it as if it was a national cheese, competing with everything else in our dishes. And it was because, I mean, somehow one of our islands became to be a tax-free zone, and a lot of imports were coming through there, and it was relatively inexpensive to have this Dutch cheese. And now we can find here in Los Angeles, so we have a really good source of that cheese. And every day we try to see what else comes about, who's making fresh cheese, and it's also a matter of cost too. It can become really expensive. Like the cheese that I was bringing from Florida, my cost was almost $9 a pound.
Wow!
So that's a lot of money for cheese that, and I decided to just I couldn't do it. Transportation, I mean, and refrigeration is very expensive.
Wow. So if anybody has any questions, you can put it in the chat or even unmute yourself if there's something you'd like to know from Jose. Feel free to come right in or to put it in the chat. And Jose, when you're cooking, what is your own personal private trilogy that you start off with? Your trilogy of ingredients.
Well, for me, basically it's my own adobo. And adobo, for us Latinos, is a mixture of dry ingredients, annatto seeds, dry onion, and dried or powder, or garlic, and oregano, and bay leaves. That's usually from there. I can just go in a lot of different directions.
Okay, so that's your herb flavor. What would be your like the mirepoix, similar to the mirepoix or the other Trinity?
Right. We usually, we substitute a lot. Usually in what we do in Venezuela, what we start with, we use a lot of leeks.
Oh.
We don't use celery. We use a lot of leeks, onion, and peppers, garlic, and onion.
Wow, I wouldn't have thought that. Awesome.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, like a very simple recipe will be to make your lentils. I mean, you can just, just cut your carrots, onions, and substitute the in place of the celery, just use the leeks, and they give you a very settled taste, but it's very pleasant.
Hmm. And then would you use the adobo in there, that herb mixture in your lentils also?
Usually what I like is I usually use oregano, cumin, um, and bay leaves.
Yum.
And
Nice.
if it was, the adobo is mostly for dry for meats, for any type of meat or fish.
Uh-huh. And Jessica Perez would like to know where there's a traditional Venezuelan market where she can buy arpa flour. I think it's arpa.
You can get it at the cafe. We sell it.
Oh,
Yeah, we sell the flour there. Save you a trip.
and what is that flour used for? Why is that any different?
Well, the main dish that we make at the cafe is called an arepa.
Arepa.
And the arepa is our tortilla. It's basically, just to give you a little brief history of, we the region of the northeast side of South America was approximately the last indigenous population to have access to corn. So because of the larger and better structured societies of like the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Incas, that used to be the trade. So it used to be a trade that used to be, it will skip that area. And somehow it actually came back up. And then, corn's been around for almost, 10,000 years. And we have traced corn back in Venezuela for 1,500 years. So it had been domesticated, it had been in use for a long time until the indigenous tribes of the Caribbean actually got access to it. So with that said, we learned how to prepare it, we have a similar
Process.
technology. We use the metate like they use in Central America and in Mexico. But also, since we had the African heritage, we actually have also another type of process that is based on a hollow trunk, and you can imagine just like a baseball bat, and then actually it's a mortar. So that was the we inherit that from Africans. So we have two types of process of the corn. So, but in the 1950s, with some of the industrial revolution, and the fact that we had a large population of Europeans coming to our country and establishing their own businesses and bringing their own cuisines, it was a lot easier to go to the bakery to buy bread than to make this labor-intensive cornbread. So
that industrial revolution really did a lot to us.
Well, we in my country, they were actually people were stopping eating arepas. So arepas became something more of people who could not afford to eat bread. So poor people or people in the country were eating, but in the cities, bread was popularized. Somehow there was a family also that saw they used to make arepas, and this engineer actually created a process that has been patented, in which he took it a step further and actually made a flour out of corn that is pre-dehydrated. So that way, actually, when you add water to it, it reacts in a way that actually rehydrates, and you can keep it dry. Prior to that, you will have to actually mill the corn. You will have to use the nixtamalization process, in which you use an alkaline solution, let it sit overnight, and then you actually can remove the outside layer of the corn that is hard and is non-digestible. So he created this flour, and then another company kind of took over. There's speculations that actually this invention was stolen. Other people say that this invention was, kind of miraculously invented at the same time in another section of, and it became like the maseca of Mexico. So the difference between maseca and pan, which is the flour that we use in Venezuela, is that the maseca is actually a nixtamalized corn, and the flour that we use in Venezuela is actually pre-dehydrated. So it's a very different process. So when you can see it in the final product, the nixtamal is usually heavier, it's richer in flavor, and the pan harina is actually very light and fluffy. So that there's a different in texture and taste. We've been experimenting with different types of corn. We've been kind of working on the nixtamalization part of it, and we have achieved very close results and taste to the industrial flour. So that's where we're trying to break away from that and bring back an aspect that could be, interpreted as indigenous or typical or
healthier.
Yeah.
So when you use corn, what kind of corn do you use, or do you just use? Because I'm thinking that based on your culture, that you're a corn aficionado.
Well, unfortunately, we've been misguided and educated when it comes to corn. I mean, basically, during the Green Revolution, things were these hybrids emerged in order to yield more product.
Right. Since corn is in everything.
So the corn that we have is actually a hybrid that was created in Mexico, traveled to Cuba, and then it ended up in Venezuela. So this white corn is mainly the one that they use. It has a number. It doesn't have a name. I don't know. It could be C3PO or something like that. But through research, which has been really hard because there's not much documentation or available out of the scholastic journals of universities back home. To find out exactly what type of corn we had. So through the research, I found a professor at the University of Central de Venezuela, and she wrote a journal about some of the different types of corn that she found that were original, or they calling it's like an heirloom varietal.
Right.
So they were, like when I was a kid, I remember, growing up, and then, if they make the arepas with the white corn, I was happy. If somehow they run out of the white corn and they, substituted my arepa with a yellow corn one, I will be pissed. And I will be like, what is this? But, now that I see it, we actually were indoctrinated, just like here, with white bread, Wonder Bread. The same situation happened back home with this type of processed cornmeal, and so that's where I've been actually trying to find a little more about the different types of corn that we have back home. Yeah. The difficult task is that, it's very dangerous to travel to Venezuela, specifically in those areas where they're growing corn. So, and it's expensive. there is no direct flights right now. I will have to travel to Dominican Republic and then to Venezuela or to a third country. So I decided to go to Mexico, which is the place where actually corn comes from. And I visited very historical and sacred sites of indigenous tribes that actually are said to have been handed down from the gods, the corn. Um, and I had been to different institutions and museums, and I, worked with agrarian engineers to
Mm-hmm.
understand and learn a little more about corn. On the last trip, I mean, we documented through photography and film a little bit of that journey, and we're waiting to actually put it together.
Wow. That'd be interesting to see. The whole story and the whole journey of corn is so amazing. And I would venture to guess that what you're serving or using is not as crazy genetically modified as what we in general in the area use.
Right. No, we're working with the flour that is made out of a hybrid, and hybrid is different from a GMO. But our ultimate goal is actually to go to the heirloom varietals. And then, I mean, there's a question of how you mill it. You can do it with volcanic stone mill wheels, or you can do it with stainless steel. So there's a matter also of how we're going to achieve that. Given that certain processes are banned by the health department. So that's where we are in that intersection of what kind of equipment we're going to acquire. And then, I mean, we cannot travel to Mexico, so we have to wait until everything comes down, and probably, I don't know, maybe 2022 will bring us back on the road.
Awesome. Speaking of COVID, what are some of the things that you're doing different during COVID, and what's a way that we can support the cafe?
Well, for one thing, being a cultural and a social space, I mean, we feel like they cut our arms, because we can't have anybody inside. Now we can't have anybody outside. So we're waiting for the time that this, outbreak kind of passes, and we're allowed to have tables outside so people can come and at least enjoy themselves on open air. We have created we've been very comfortable doing what we've been doing. I mean, the cafe is going to turn 20 this year.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. And so we do very subtle changes. We just keep everything, like they say, if it's not broken, why try to fix it? And our motto is like, I mean, just to be as simple as possible in everything that we do. We've had to think quick, and we created a menu that actually is more of a family style meal that you can acquire. Some of our sauces, pickled or smoked ingredients, peppers, are in jars. So we've been canning a lot. We've been creating, I mean, larger portions and transform ourselves into like a little, more or less a little market that you can go. We started, bagging our homemade granola. I mean, anything that we could think of, we started doing. The folks at Bob's Market have been really cool, and they were like, Rick, who's the son of the owner, was like, I love this granola. We have to have it there. So he's kind of, pushing me to actually, get it set so it can be sold at his store.
Awesome.
And then we have also ways that other people have just pre-order, and then come and pick up. If you know that we also have like part baked baguettes that you can take home, keep them frozen, and then you will have fresh baked bread in the morning if you want to. So that's what we've been doing mainly. A lot of takeout. That's the nature of everything that we've been doing, and just trying to be safe. Trying to be safe.
So we can get some of your preserved items. We can get the flour there, and whatever's on the menu, we can get that to go either individually or family style.
Correct. Yeah. If you want to just venture into making arepas, I mean, you can get all the ingredients and give me a call and I'll or send me a picture and I'll guide you.
Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we should have a cook along.
It was really fun. I did it with my son's class at Edison. There were about probably like 25 kids, and what we did was I pre-made the dough, and I gave him in little bags to the teacher, so she passed it out. And then, since it will be a little crazy to try to have everybody do one ingredient, so I told them that on this day you're gonna be your own chef. You're gonna create your own traditional arepa for your family. And they picked whatever ingredients they wanted, and they did it. There was a family in Germany. There was another family in Hawaii, so they had a different type of cornmeal. It was quite something. And then to see the pictures and everybody eating them and the ingredients that they put in it, peanut butter and jelly. I mean, you name it. It was
like so much fun.
It was amazing. It was so much fun. I mean, and then we did another online cooking on Zoom for Anahara, who was running for city council. So
I saw that. I didn't partake. So but was it?
We did that one also. We did a small, we showed how to make them, and people actually made them, and then it was fun also. I mean, it's not that complicated.
That's great. So you might be having some food kits over there for us to make stuff. We'll have to promote that.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Definitely.
Well, does anybody have any more questions? Do you sell any spices at your place?
No, I mean, basically any of the spices that we have, I mean, you can buy it anywhere.
Simple, yeah.
Yeah, it's very simple. We don't have anything crazy that we can say, that it will be so unique.
Okay, if no one else has any questions, thank you, Erica. Well, Jose, we want to thank you so much for sharing all this information with us, and I can hardly wait to come over there and get some of that good food and see what you've pickled. I love that you pickled some stuff because I think that's coming back.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And it's fun and it's delicious. I mean, we don't have a strong, pickling tradition back home, but I love it.
So what did you pickle? Did you pickle peppers or what did you pickle?
We've been making carrots with jalapenos, like taqueria style. We've been pickling also Persian cucumbers.
Oh.
In a little bit of a Japanese vinegar. Very interesting with some spices. We've been roasting and preserving in olive oil and spices roasted red peppers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are all these dishes, pickling items available for purchase?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so I'll need a bottle of the peppers, the red peppers, and the Persian cucumbers right away.
Any corn? Any pickled corn in the jar?
No, not yet.
So Erica says that she's been to the restaurant and she's had the carrots and she's already a fan. The carrots are her favorite.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Jose, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to when we open and we'll be able to come over there and socialize. And until then, we'll get it to go.
Absolutely. And if there's anybody on board that actually thinks that they're ready to take a step, they're closer, or they have any questions, I mean, you can share my info or you know where to find me. And I'll be glad to 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 share my thoughts and help out how I can.
Great. Thank you so much, and congratulations on 20 years.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Bye, Lupe.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Jose. And
You're welcome,
thank you all
guys.
for coming.
Bye-bye, Kathleen.
Bye-bye. Have a great
Bye,
day,
Florence.
everybody.
Gracias, José.
Thank you, Jose.
Gracias.
Thank you. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.